The story of the werewolf has been told many times throughout history, all the way back to early Greek myths. This means that they were more common than the closely related vampire, a creature from mythology that isn't as old as the lichen. Werewolves have been popularized in both books and movies, but many real stories inspired the stories about these ugly, violent beasts that were said to have killed many people. The other exciting thing about the werewolf tale is that it comes from multiple places. So, could the half-man, half-beast story that many people say is a pure myth have any truth to it? Could this type of wolf have been an animal that prowled around at night when the moon was full, looking for its next innocent meal? If there are real people who hunt for Bigfoot, there's no reason why a smaller species with similar traits couldn't exist. So let's find out what's true and what's not. When it comes to Western literature, there's this fascinating ancient text called the Legend of Gilgamesh, which is considered the oldest form of prose we know of. It's remarkable how far back it goes. Within this epic tale, there's a mention of a woman who had the power to transform her lover into a wolf. Isn't that curious? A werewolf-like creature was depicted in this painting, which may be one of the oldest examples of its kind. Now here's the intriguing part. We don't know where this particular inspiration came from. It's mysterious. It could have been rooted in an oral legend or some other form of ancient storytelling passed down through generations. Unfortunately, the origins of this specific aspect remain elusive. However, fast forward a bit and we find ourselves in Greek mythology. The Greeks with their rich and imaginative tales. This mythology contains the term lycan, closely related to the concept of werewolf. So, in a sense, the next significant mention of werewolves occurs in Greek mythology, with the emergence of the term lycan. It's intriguing to explore how these ancient legends and mythologies have influenced our literary tradition. Who would have thought that a story dating back to the ancient Mesopotamians could contain elements that would later shape the tales of werewolves in Greek mythology? It shows how interconnected and fascinating the world of literature and folklore can be. The legend of Lycaon is known to those familiar with werewolf lore. Lycaon, son of Pelasgus, committed a grave error by feeding Zeus the remains of a sacrificed boy. However, Zeus did not transform Lycaon into a wolf. Instead, he cursed his sons, turning them into wolves. This event marked the origins of the legends surrounding werewolves and humans with wolf-like characteristics. As is often the case with ancient myths, similar tales of lycanthropy emerged in various regions over time. Nordic folklore tells about magical things that can change into animals. In Nordic folklore, there's a story about a father and son who stumbled upon strange wolf droppings. It turns out that these pellets had some magical power that could turn people into wolves for exactly 10 days. Now, both the father and son got their hands on these pellets and decided to give it a try. Well, things quickly went downhill from there. They transformed into wolves and went on a wild rampage, causing chaos in the forest for a solid 10 days. But here's where things get even weirder. In a bizarre twist of fate, the father ended up attacking his son. The raven gave him a unique leaf with healing properties, saving him from his father's attack. This tale from the saga of the Volsungs is closest to a more modern werewolf story. It has all the elements of transformation, a time limit, and even a bit of family drama. It shows how these legends have evolved over time, taking on different forms in different cultures. Real-life werewolves. You won't believe some of the twisted stories from history. There were cases of people claiming to be werewolves and committing brutal crimes. Let me tell you about a couple of the most notorious ones. Back in 1521, these guys were named Michael Verdun and Pierre Berget. They went around telling everyone that they could transform into wolves. Can you imagine that? Well, they didn't just stop talking about it. They confessed to some truly heinous crimes. And you know what happened to them? They were burned at the stake. That was the usual punishment for anyone who claimed to be some mythical creature during that time. People didn't know any better. Then there's Giles Garnier, also known as the Werewolf of Dole. This happened in the 16th century. Now, this guy had a sick preference for attacking children. It's horrifying. And guess what? He claimed to have this ointment that could turn him into a wolf whenever he wanted. Can you believe the nerve? Like the others, he was burned at the stake after confessing to his monstrous crimes. Now, we look back on these cases and think these guys were probably dealing with serious mental illness. It's hard to imagine someone transforming into a wolf, right? But back then, people didn't understand mental health as we do now. So, it's likely that these men had some psychological disorder. It's disturbing to think about what they did, but it's also a reminder of how much we've learned about the human mind since then. Let me tell you about the most infamous werewolf of them all, the Bedburg werewolf. This story takes us back to the 16th century in a little town called Bedburg in Germany. The guy at the center of it all was Peter Stubb, and boy, was he a terrifying figure. According to the tale, Stubb went on a killing spree during the nights of Bedburg, throwing the entire town into a state of panic. Can you imagine the fear that must have gripped those people? They were frantic. But here's where it gets spooky. When they finally caught up with Stubby and cornered him, the hunters who confronted him claimed to have witnessed his transformation. Yes, you heard that right. They said they saw him turn into a wolf. Can you believe it? After this mind-boggling transformation, Stubby confessed to all the horrible things he was accused of, just like a typical werewolf from the stories. He claimed that his power came from a belt. But here's the twist. The belt was never found, so it couldn't be confirmed. Some people think Stubby was just a scapegoat, maybe caught up in some political scheme. But regardless of the truth, the mere idea of a werewolf running loose was enough to send paranoia and fear skyrocketing, just like the infamous Salem witch trials. It's fascinating. These stories capture our imagination and make us wonder about past mysteries. Whether there was any truth to the Bedburg werewolf, or if it was all a product of fear and manipulation, one thing's for sure. It left a lasting mark on people's collective imagination. It added another layer to the legends of werewolves. So that's all for today's video. If you like this video, click the like and the bell buttons. We'll have another video for you soon. Take care until then.